What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Kickash Podcast. We are here today to take a look at AEW Double or Nothing and take a look at the card itself, do a quick rundown, a little prediction show here, if you will. And then also to take a look at the media call, or a review rather, of the media call from Tony Khan promoting such pay-per-view that he did on Thursday afternoon, which of course was May 23rd, 2024, to promote said pay-per-view on Sunday. And it's just crazy that we're at the end of May already, going into June. The year is halfway over, which is just insane. But again, thank you guys so much for checking out the show. And if you'd like, you can follow me on Twitter at ASHMANNS. You can follow the show's Twitter page at Kickash Podcast _. Again, you can view the show either on YouTube, stream it there, or you can check me out on Apple, Spotify, maybe iHeartRadio. I don't know. I used to share it through pretty much any link that I could when I set up the feed. So pretty much, I think almost anywhere you can listen to podcasts, you can check it out. But I'm sure if you're listening by now, you've already figured that out. So appreciate that. But with that being said, like I said, we're just going to dive right into it. Don't want to waste too much time because I'm going to try to bust out the WWE King and Queen of the Ring pay-per-view prediction as well. But with that being said, I will get right into the media call because, like I said, I want to get things moving along here. But the media call, I didn't get a chance to listen to the full thing, so I'm reading a transcript from ProWrestling.net, where I also shout out Jason as always. He starts off by saying, Tony Khan opened the call by talking about, of course, AEW Double or Nothing, while noting that it is available on more pay-per-view platforms than any show in AEW history. The first question regarding Double or Nothing, Khan talking about the event. Khan said the first two AEW pay-per-view events of 24 were home runs. Okay. Khan was asked about building stars or keeping wrestlers in a holding pattern at a time when the company has had a lot of injuries. The caller also jokingly asked about whether a permit is needed to use a flamethrower, from Darby Allin, of course. Khan joked that fortunately Allin has a permit. And I don't know if he was being serious or not, but if he does, that's pretty badass. Khan also spoke about Double or Nothing, or the Double or Nothing card, rather, and said it looked strong. He spoke about going back to Vegas with a strong card, saying the stars being injured creates opportunities for them to come back and create great moments. He said the people who are keeping things strong now will have great opponents walking through the door for future matches. Khan was asked whether they're looking at running future television events in places they have not been before. He said they are. He spoke about the summer series that will be held in Arlington, Texas. He said there are other markets that they have yet to mine, and they have yet to mine in the U.S., Canada, and overseas. He touted the addition of Kosha Urbe as the new AEW COO and the live events team that they have put together. A caller mentioned a report that discussed Mark Henry's contract, which is what we discussed on a previous show, that his contract is expiring soon, and asked if Khan has interest in keeping him in the fold. Khan praised Henry and said that he is a great media person as well as philanthropist, and indicated that it was something they would need to look at eternally. Which I think is an interesting answer, just really quick, because the fact that they need to look at that eternally, you would think that that would be something that's already on the forefront or already being discussed, and maybe he is, and they're just gonna keep that internal. So I'm not really sure exactly what he meant there, but I would hope that they were already reviewing that and kind of discussing it, with Mark Henry himself, and weighing the pros and cons and both sides rather. So I'm gonna say in err on the positive side and the certainty side that they have already discussed and reviewed some things, and he's just keeping the specifics of it internally. Eternally. Maybe he is going to keep Mark Henry eternally. We'll see. But Khan also was asked whether the summer series in Arlington could be a preview in terms of the way they do things for television shows in the future. He said the Arlington deal was a unique opportunity, but he is open if there are other cities that have interest in doing something similar. He said if things go well, it could be a model for similar series in the future. So again, I spoke about that again, or as well, on the previous show. I think, I mentioned, I think the glaring potential con could be the fact that you could water out that particular area, that city, that that market, your ticket sales could go down. But if you're able to get like maybe like a 5-pack deal for a show, for the show itself rather, if you can get, if they sell like a bundle, or if they offer a bundle, like you save X amount of percentage if you buy the bundle, and you have access to every show, you know what I mean? Like you just get a ticket that you pretty much get the same seat at every show type thing. So if they aren't doing something like that, I think they, maybe it's a good idea if they do, and that guarantees you're going to have that fan there every night. You don't have to worry about selling an additional ticket for that spot. It's already sold, right? Now you just hope that they show up and don't get burned out, and just say screw it and just not show up altogether. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think it'd be more likely if someone already bought something, they're going to want to go and get their value out of it. So just an idea and a thought. But Khan was asked about Serena Deeb's comeback after suffering through a series of seizures. He said it's an inspirational story and that she had medical challenges that she got through to get to the point where she's challenging Toni Storm for the AEW Women's Championship at Double or Nothing. A caller then asked Khan about Willow Nightingale and Mercedes Moné, their match at Double or Nothing. He said he feels this is an important chapter and what could be a great rivalry. He said that they have a lot of chemistry, so no surprise there. um, like Anyway, it's like obvious, right? Khan was asked about playing a character on television after initially expressing reluctance to do so. The caller asked what changed Khan's mind. He said he's tried to limit the number of appearances that he's made over the last 5 years. He said he loves being at the events and appearing in front of the live crowd before and after shows. He said it's important for him that the focus is on the wrestlers and the wrestling. He said that even when the focus is on the office, it's still important to spotlight the wrestlers. He said when he was on the show rather for roughly 2 seconds, and he feels that's how it should be. Now, granted, with that, that's most likely referring to his appearance here on Dynamite this past week when he dropped off Darby Allin with the flamethrower. Because clearly the segment that he did to start all this with Jungle Boy and not Jungle Boy, well, Jack Perry and the Elite rather was a little bit longer than 2 seconds, but I get what he's saying there. But that doesn't shut the door on him reappearing in the future. So we'll see. And I don't think he would ever get to the point where he's like hogging the show or even the majority of the show. But I'm sure that bug bit him. You know what I mean? And it's I don't again like I don't necessarily blame him, but I think and I'm hoping rather that Khan will know where to draw the line. And I think look, he made it what 4 years, almost 5 years without being on TV as a character already. So I think that's a better sign. I mean, maybe, especially someone who loves the business as much as he does, right? Like, I'm sure a part of him is just dying to get involved in front of the camera in some aspects. So the fact that he did limit himself, I think is a good sign. Now, the real test is going forward now that he's kind of dipped his toe to see if he puts the whole foot in, jumps in, or if he's like, all right, I'm good. Just wanted to see the temperature. I'm good. And backs back out. So we'll see. But I think that was a very interesting response as well. He goes on regarding being asked about the running of the MGM Grand Garden Arena as opposed to the T-Mobile Center. He said one of the things that mattered to him was the sentimentality of this being the company's 5-year anniversary. He said they ran MGM Grand initially and thinks that it's a cool idea, or it's the idea, I made that up. He said he thinks it's cool to go back to the venue where it all started. A caller also asked how satisfied he is with the new signings of Okada, Monet, and Will Ospreay. Khan hyped up played up rather. I'm just picking up all sorts of shit. Khan played up having them all wrestling on the same AEW show for the first time. He said he thinks AEW will be a much better place because they added all 3 wrestlers. So kind of a generic answer there. Like I don't know. In some of these questions, it's like, what do you expect him to say? Like, oh, I'm really disappointed what Okada's doing. You know, Monet, like, God, like I thought she was gonna bring us so much more ratings, and she's not. Or like, no, like he's not gonna say that shit. So it's like, why even ask a question like that? And no offense to whoever did. Hope I don't know who asked what question. But just, and it's not even them specifically. It's just like as a whole, like some of the questions that are asked, it's just like really like you get a golden opportunity to ask a question to the owner of the company and you ask like certain questions, like I don't know, it's just always kind of been mind-boggling to me. But continuing on, he asked if there were other wrestlers who were considered to replace Eddie Kingston in the Anarchy in the Arena match. Khan said the addition of Allen to the match was a case of great minds thinking alike. He said they have very different interests, but one thing they have in common is keeping late night hours. Khan said he texted Allen to ask how he was doing in his recovery. Allen said he was good and let him know that he could replace Kingston in the match. Khan laughed and said that Allen answered the question before he could ask. Khan said Allen was the perfect choice and said that he would not have allowed him to wrestle had he not received medical clearance, which you can't anyway. And sometimes I just say dumb shit that's like a given too, but it's like, come on now. And not saying that was even dumb, but just like, I don't know. Yeah, like it wasn't a dumb comment, but like just a phrase, right? Like I don't know if it is just like a given and another given. Continuing on, Khan was asked what the Double or Nothing anniversary means to him. He said it means a lot. He said, okay, I'm not gonna, whatever. Like, what do you think it means to him? Come on, guys. Okay. He was asked about moving All Out to a week later and what lessons he's learned from running back-to-back weekends last year. Khan said there was a lot of feedback about putting more time between the two shows. He said they had run on Labor Day weekend for several years, going back to All In prior to AEW. He said he wants to give the fans in Chicago a great show and felt like this is a way to give them an even better show. He recalled they were the only company running on Labor Day weekend when they started. He said the competition started to do the same, and that was cool. Khan said he likes listening to fan feedback, and the move was positively received. He said the show will now be held during NFL opening weekend, so moving it to Saturday as opposed to running on Sunday made sense. Bravo. Great job there. I think that makes sense for everyone involved. And this is interesting. And again, I didn't hear this part, but the transcription again from ProWrestling.net. Shout out Jason. The next caller asked running a triple main event and when the women will headline a show. Khan spoke about Strickland versus Cage, spoke highly of both men, and said Christian has been an MVP of the company and said he feels he's one of the best signings the company has ever made. Agreed on that. Khan said the hype regarding his arrival in AEW was justified. Disagree on that. Khan said it was a huge match and Swerve's first title defense on pay-per-view. Khan spoke again about Mercedes Moné challenging Willow Nightingale for the TBS title. Khan said Anarchy in the arena will be crazy. He thinks the past variations of the match have been some of the best matches in the world, even though it's brawling and pure anarchy as opposed to traditional wrestling. I don't know about the best in the world, but it's just in a different category. You know what I mean? And he mentioned that he thinks some other matches are main event worthy as well. So okay. But I was hoping he was maybe going to reference and speak more about women potentially main eventing a pay per view, but he did not there, at least not in the transcription. And Jason's really good about recapping stuff, so I don't like he just sometimes he just avoids things that are just like, why would you not directly answer that point, or maybe he just thinks of something else and then forgets what the original question was. But he has a great memory, so I doubt that, but that's what happens to me, right? Like I'll get asked a question and I'll start to answer, but then I'll think of something else, or maybe it's something that'll lead into it, and then I'll forget what my main point was and what the original question was. I'm just like, fuck it, well, that's the story. um and Yeah, so this was one that I was kind of interested in as well. He was asked about the most valuable lessons he's learned and the biggest surprises, whether there are things he looks back on and wishes he could change. He said there are a lot of things like that, and they learn every day. There have been a lot of great opportunities and moments, but there are countless things he would change if he could go back in time. And just pausing right there, I really appreciated that he owned up to that. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people, myself, be like, oh, like, yeah, like if I could change it, like I don't know if I would change anything because it led me to where I am today. You know what I mean? It's something like that. And again, like I know I've said something like that myself, but when you really sit and think about it and you look at it, I really appreciate him saying, and just owning up to it, like, yeah, like he would change it if he could go back in time. And not just avoiding and or implying that, oh no, everything's been great. So respect to that. He said that doesn't just apply to AEW, but it also applies to football and life. He studied pro wrestling history long before AEW started because it was important for him to study things that happened and try to learn from them. He said while he would change things if he could, he's also very happy with everything. There you go. Khan said he's been fortunate to get a lot of great opportunities, and there are some opportunities that are once in a lifetime, but otherwise you hope you'll get another chance. He thinks you learn from the swings you take, so you have to keep swinging. Um, Yeah, he said he didn't want to bury anyone in the company. He pointed to the NFL draft and how all 32 teams would go back and change things that they've done over the years. It's just yeah. I hope we all would. You know what I mean? Like, but again, I respect his answer, and I like that he actually kind of addressed it directly and said, yeah, there are some things that would change. So that's cool. I wish we would get a follow up and then be like, oh, do you have an example? Or what would you change? Or top three. And then finally, he was asked about how the NBA negotiations affect AEW. He said, obviously, he won't talk to anyone before the exclusive negotiating period with Warner Brothers Discovery ends. He said he is very happy with WBD and feels it fits like a glove. Khan said WBD CEO David Zaslav has been great to him and greenlit AEW Collision. He said expanding from 3 hours per week to 5 per week is a big deal. Mentioned other executives he has worked with and cited executive Jason Solanas as someone who is knowledgeable about pro wrestling and cares about it. Colin also said it's a blessing every day they're on TBS and TNT. And shout out to you, man. I respect that. It is, and I like that he phrased it that way. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's you can tell he really does appreciate it. So I can respect that too. And it makes you again like it makes you that's an endearing quality Tony Khan has is when he says stuff like that, like you mean it, you know what I mean? And you see you feel the love that he has for the business, you know what I mean? And he doesn't take stuff like that for granted. Um yeah, and then it was just us, and it was just talking about the how great the 5 years has been. So that's the media call. And again, nothing too crazy or groundbreaking, but I think it was a pretty cool, quick little insert there that he did right before the preview show. So, with that being said, we will get into the prediction show itself and take a look at the PLE card or PLE. This isn't WWE. The actual pay per view because you still have to pay $50 for AEW pay per views. So hopefully that'll be changing soon and going on to like a HBO Max or some type of streaming service. 50, especially if they go to 50 a month, is going to be just too much of a hike. And so taking a look at the card itself. I'm reading the lineup from CBSSports.com, so shout out to them for the lineup that they have. Because to be honest, I just didn't have time to go through and gather all the matches myself, so shout out to them. But they have, and what could very possibly be the first match on the show. I don't think we have any pre-card matches yet, or pre-show matches rather. So we'll just start with the main card itself. We have international champion Roderick Strong facing off against Will Ospreay. And with this one, again, like I'm not a fan of him going for this championship. I don't like how he started off so hot, saying he was the best in the world, and that's what he's out to prove. That had, like to literally prove himself here, over on this side. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, like he wants to beat the best, so he can prove he's the best and pretty much be the champion, right? Be the heavyweight champion, and then all of a sudden he's in this. What I forget what it was called. Not it wasn't a scramble match, but it was that new variation type of match that they had where like different participants just randomly come out. He was in the match and it was cool. It was a different type of vibe. I'd honestly have to go back and rewatch it again to get a true feeling for it. But to me, it just didn't, I don't know, like it was fine, but it didn't really set the tone for what you would want a match with implications to really challenge for any championship for that matter, because you should hope and expect that each championship and each title that you have has weight and meaning. So the fact that this is how Ospreay won his first qualifying essentially match to an eliminator match if you want to play into what we'll have later on, eliminator type style matches to lead into his first championship title opportunity match here in AEW, and that being the international championship. It's just, I don't know. But I do have to admit, and I will say that, like I mentioned in a previous recap, that the interview or the backstage segment that Osprey did with Roderick Strong, I think it was, what was it, last week's Dynamite? I don't know. But it was, it was the one where Osprey was pretty passionate about what he was saying. To me, that stood out from their build in itself. That was probably my favorite part of the build itself. To be honest, nothing else really stands out besides that one promo. And I feel like it was last week when they were backstage with Rodney, of course, Will, Renee. God, when was it? Anyway, I was trying to run through to see if I could picture anything else on the show and then narrow it down, but it's not important. You guys know what I'm talking about, and you probably already know. But with that being said, as much as I don't want Will Ospreay to win, just because I want him to keep his focus on the heavyweight championship, and I don't know, just the pivot is just what's striking to me. And I previously thought, maybe he'll win this title and then face off and be title for title, champion versus champion at All In. But I don't know, man. Like, it just seems kind of not the path that they're on right now. So I'm still gonna go Osprey wins, but I think they're gonna have him kind of do his own thing, and I don't know how I feel about it, so I'm gonna wait and see. But I think Osprey wins here unless there's some type of fuck finish. And one of the members of the Undisputed Kingdom get involved and help out Roddy. But I don't know, man. It's just kind of something's not right with it. And maybe that's the whole thing. Maybe we're setting this up and it's just to screw Will over and get more heat on Roddy and make it to where Will doesn't have to be undefeated. Because I'm pretty certain he is, so you don't need that added pressure. Not that they're promoting it or anything, but still, I don't know, like something seems a little off. But I'm gonna stick with the safe bet and say Osprey wins. But I could see them doing some type of fuck finish for Strong winning and retaining. And not fuck finish, but some type of like interference, rather, with the referee's back turn type thing, or Will being struck by a chair or something, um, or maybe even a returning Adam Cole. Maybe Adam Cole returns and costs Will, so Will has a storyline going forward, and that could be, man, that would be a great story, great promos, a great just feud, him versus Adam Cole. Get a good 2-3 months out of that, easy. So I'm gonna go. Honestly, now that I'm talking more, I'm gonna. I don't know, cause he really. I don't know, man. Like, I kind of want to go rogue and put my bet on Roddy, because now I'm really getting myself excited for a potential Cole and Osprey feud. And I guess you could do it still if Osprey was the loss for Roddy. Um, so yeah, I guess I'll stick with that. I guess I'll stick with Osprey coming back and or not coming back, but Osprey winning and defeating Roderick Strong. But I'd love to see Adam Cole come back and my little prediction come true with him returning, screwing Osprey over, and then Osprey and Adam Cole starting a feud. Because, man, that match too, especially if MJF isn't ready yet, that's a nice little interim program for Adam Cole to have, and the Undisputed Kingdom for that matter. Take a quick sip of my drink here, guys. Good old Canada Dry. Okay, but next up we have the AEW Women's World Championship. Tony Storm facing off against Serena Deeb. I'm just happy Serena Deeb is okay, and apparently, and I would hope, she's wrestling again. Better from the seizure situation that she was going through. So happy for her and shout out to her. Don't see this changing though. Tony Stormer's retaining. It's gonna be a very good match, I think, and probably one of the best AEW women's matches that they'll have, that's like wrestling wise, like wrestled wise. And I hope they get time to prove that. But my no brainer pick pretty much in this one is, to me, that's gotta be like, the odds are gotta be crazy on the side of Tony Storm. So yeah, no brainer there. Adam Copeland next up is on the list. Of course, he's your TNT champion with the championship on the line, facing off against Malachi Black in a barbed wire steel cage match. This one's kind of interesting, but I don't see Copeland losing the title. I don't see it. So I'm gonna, as much as I love Malachi Black, I'm gonna stick with Adam Copeland retaining here, unless, of course, the House of Black interfere. But I don't think they can. Obviously, right? That's the point of the barbed wire part of the steel cage match, and of course, to make it more brutal. Yeah, man, I think Copeland's gonna retain this and show a more sadistic side of him, and maybe a side that kind of like calls back to his hardcore style match against Mick Foley at WrestleMania 22 from way back when, which is crazy to think of like how long ago that was now. But yeah, I think Copeland's gonna win and retain the championship here. Although I would fucking love if Malachi won and was the champion and gonna be showcased more on TV. That'd be great. But I just don't see it happening right now, sadly. So Copeland retains. Next up, we have though Jon Moxley facing off against Konosuke Takeshita. Of course, Moxley is your IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. This is an eliminator match, which pretty much means if Takeshita wins, he sets himself up for a championship match against Moxley going forward. I appreciate the idea behind the eliminator style matches. I just don't get it of when you have other people who just get a match randomly or just win a battle royal or I don't know. It's just so convoluted and because there was no structure prior. Yeah, I don't know. And that's why I was really a fan and hopeful of the ranking system, but it just didn't end up really being that logical, I guess, and really that easy to manage, which I'm sure it's not, but it is what it is. With this one though, I'm gonna kind of go on the other side. I'm gonna say Takeshita wins. Um, whether I don't think it's clean, although I'd be down to see it, right? Because what would be more intriguing than having Takeshita pin Moxley clean, obviously guaranteeing him a championship match going forward. And then now the question is, oh wow, Moxley just lost clean already. Can he beat Takeshita? So I think that'd be really cool. I don't know if they're gonna have that happen though, especially if New Japan would be cool with it. It's not a championship match, but it has championship implications, so it just makes you wonder the full autonomy that AEW would have in the booking and who really makes that final call. So I am going to go Takeshita wins here, though. Again, obviously not surprised if Moxley would win, but I'm going on the opposite side, I think, of the probable odds in this one and taking Takeshita, just because I think it's an easy 1-2 setup, right? Like an easy 2-step or 2 series matches that you have right there. Yeah, so I think Takeshita needs this. He really does. So I don't see him winning the title later on, but he needs at least this victory to put under his belt. Next up, and I'm just kind of surprised it made it to the card, but I get it. Or the pay-per-view match or card rather itself, and I could see this being maybe part of the pre-show if we get one. But that being Orange Cassidy facing off against Trent Beretta. And yeah, this one we all know the story. Best friends splitting up, obviously. I think this is just a regular match. Like, yeah, no stipulation or not no DQ or anything like that. I just don't see Cassidy losing. Cassidy's like the golden boy. Like I don't see him losing, but I would love to see Trent win and just get the upset victory here. And I normally go terrible when it comes to my streak with winning and losing on my predictions here. So I'm going to go crazy with this one too. I'm going to go Beretta wins because why do all this if he's just going to lose? You know what I mean? Like Cassidy is not going to be hurt at all if he loses to Beretta. So my off the wall pick for this one is Trent wins. Next, you have your FTW Championship match. Chris Jericho facing off against Hook, and it's a triple threat match, obviously. Facing off against Hook and Katsuyori Shibata. I can very easily see Jericho, something happening in the match, Hook maybe hitting Shibata inadvertently, and then Jericho getting the pin that way. It's not original, right? Obviously. But I think that's what's going to happen. And the fact that it is an FTW rules match as well, that does leave the possibility and the option, and the not even possibility, but the given that weapons are going to be involved. So I'm going to go Jericho retains here. I think they still have a lot to get out of this learning tree. I think this is the perfect title to have on them, right? Like, it doesn't really interfere because AEW doesn't recognize it. So it's perfect to kind of have available for Chris. So I think that Chris retains here. Jericho retains here. And this continues his and Hook's feud going forward and sets up the evidential match rather of him versus Hook going forward. And then Hook, of course, retaining the championship and possibly retiring it officially. Next up, we have AEW World Trios champions. Your champions going into it, of course, is Bullet Club Gold, Jay White, and the Gun Club facing off against Death Triangle, which is Pac, Penta El Zero Mio, and Rey Phoenix. I don't see the championships coming off of Bullet Club Gold yet, even though this division and the trios tag are not lighting the world on fire when it comes to TV time. TV time at all, really. It will Dynamite time. But I don't know. Like, I don't know what it is with me tonight, but I just want to go in the opposite direction. But I'm going to stick with Bullet Club retaining here. I think that you want to at least put up whoever's going to defeat them a little bit more. And with just the back and forth with Death Triangle as a trio over the past few years now, I think, at least a couple years, I just don't see them pulling the trigger yet at this point. So yeah, officially Bullet Club Gold retains here. Next up, we have the AEW TBS Championship match. Willow Nightingale facing off against Mercedes Moné. This is one of the ones I'm looking forward to the most. And again, like I've discussed a few times now, I think that while I would love to have Willow retain, it just sucks. Like, we all know Mercedes is gonna win, right? And I don't even know how else you would do it. I don't even know. Of course, you can have someone interfere or just Willow flat out win clean, but that's clearly not going to happen with this being Mercedes' first match. So I'm going to stick with the obvious. Mercedes wins here. Again, I hope and pray that that the wrestling universe is sadistic like me, and again that she is okay with it and approves of it. But in her first title defense, she loses because that would just be prime when it relates to the bullshit that she went to in WWE, and just play into what they could very easily slide into, like this delusional, high maintenance, high end character, right? So I think that would be fun to see. Obviously, we're not going to, right? She's gonna win the title and hold it for quite some time, and probably lead into a possible match at All In versus Britt Baker, Dr. Baker, whenever she's set to come back. So we'll see. I don't think I had to get a quick drink. I don't think there's been any rumors or speculation yet about Dr. Britt Baker returning soon or anything like that. So, and again, maybe that's or the reason for that is because they're just keeping it even more hush hush, but I don't see it being that top secret. But yeah, like, she's got to soon, right? And again, that's just like, you can have Mercedes win here, have Dr. Britt Baker either return here, make a surprise appearance, or pop up sometime within the next few episodes of Dynamite, and then go from there, or once we get closer into the summer. But we'll see. We're still way off on that. Again, easy money pick, no pun intended, is Mercedes Moné. Next up, we have the semi-main event, of course, the Elite facing off against Team AEW, which now consists of Bryan Danielson, Cash Wheeler, Dax Harwood, and Darby Allin in the Anarchy in the Arena match. I still wish there was some type of stipulation or some type of goal at the end of this, because I was just reading through here, and again, there's nothing really at stake. Like, no AEW or the Elite rather take control permanently of AEW, or control, or Tony Khan has to relinquish some power, or whatever, you know what I mean, or whatever the Bucks want. Because, like, if they win, like, what's really gonna change? So I don't know. Like, I think they have to win unless they're just gonna be done with this. But I don't. If that's the case, I don't know why you would do such a strong and heavy and big angle like that and be over within 2 months. So that just seems kind of crazy to me. But I don't think that's the route they're going, and if they are, I'd be very surprised. Um, so with that being said, the Elite win here for me, and I think it's going to continue on because we have when is Blood and Guts in maybe October? That seems kind of far out. I don't know. I think they kind of changed it too, because I went to a Blood and Guts and it was, gosh, I think in April or May a few years back. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure if there's, I think it just kind of varies, but I could definitely see that being the next go-to, right? And even if you don't have the same formulation of this particular team of Team AEW, even if you like take or remove a couple guys, swap them out type thing, I think you would have to, right? And I think it's just kind of like a placeholder for if and when Kenny Omega can come back, and if he can come back soon, if they're able to drag this out until then. But I think that's kind of based on the Elite winning, right? And keeping some steam and just building it going forward. So the Elite win, and again, I wish there was something clearly defined at stake, and unless I missed it, which I haven't seen anything anywhere. So with that being said, we have our true main event. We have the AEW World Championship match. Your champion is Swerve Strickland facing off against Christian Cage. I've enjoyed what they've done here, and again, I discussed it on the Dynamite quick review we did a couple days ago, I think. I don't think, obviously, Swerve is not going to lose right now, although it would be kind of intriguing to see Christian win and then have Swerve kind of back in the chase mode, and not even having Swerve in the chase mode. It's not even having Swerve lose, but it'd be intriguing to see Christian as the heavyweight champion and really be this, or maybe be the centerpiece of the company, right? And the focal point on like Dynamite. But I'm not hopeful, or I'm not like betting money on that rather, and I'm not hopeful with that. I want Swerve to retain here. I want the title to stay on Swerve. I want him to have a decent run with it, and obviously he's just getting started. This is his first championship defense on pay-per-view, so I don't see him losing here. Swerve is going to retain. If he does like lose though, I'd be very surprised. Like if it was an interference type thing or what have you. But I just don't see that happening. I don't see them taking the title off of Swerve right now. I don't see why you would. I don't know why you would do it again. Another big deal and a big thing like that, and then have it end it and just squashed rather within a month or two. So I don't think that's gonna happen. And again, while I'd love to see Christian as the guy in AEW, right? Because I think he could very easily be the guy and just carry kind of like it's crazy to compare them to MJF now, but kind of like the MJF role, like come out there and be promo heavy and talking segment heavy, right? And entertainment segment heavy and in that regard, but wrestle less. I could very easily see Christian doing that, but not happening right now. Maybe if this was a different time, but it's still Swerve's time. Swerve is going to retain and head on to All or Nothing, or All or Nothing, All In. It's been a long day. It's been a long week. The Florida heat, man, it's getting to me. Being outside all the time now, but yeah, I again, no brainer here for me. Well, maybe not necessarily a no brainer, but a pretty easy pick is Swerve retains. I think it's gonna be a really good match, though. I think it's gonna be really good. And I'm very curious to see if the Anarchy in the Arena match goes on last, just because the format, the style, and the length of the match. Because it's kind of awkward too to go to cut and throw it to that kind of show and or not show, but that type of match rather during the show, and then cut back to a regular main event match. So as much as I don't want Swerve to not be in the true ending main event slot on the card itself, I would understand it here, positioning wise. So if I had to put money on or a pick on what would close out the show, I would probably go the Anarchy in the Arena match, unless they use it to start off the show, which would be different. But yeah, with that being said, guys, though, thank you for checking out the show. Thank you for sticking with me, and I hope you enjoy AEW Double or Nothing. And we'll be back very soon, probably within the next day or so, depending on when I can get it posted, with the King and Queen PLE prediction show. Take care, guys.